All right, so let's bring into the conversation from Capitol Hill Republican Senator Mike Lee of Utah, who is sponsoring an alternative to the PATRIOT Act, the USA Freedom Bill. Senator, good to have you on board. I take it you don't stand with Rand on this, but how is your alternative any more effective?
Well, it's more effective because it protects the American people. It leaves in place these provisions of the PATRIOT Act. It would reauthorize them, but it would reform them. And most importantly, it would end the collection of bulk telephone data by the NSA, meaning the NSA could no longer go out and just say, send us all your phone records. We want calling details on every call made in the United States. They'd have to actually connect up a phone number that they wanted to search to another telephone number that was in some way involved in acts of terrorism.
Senator, we had an interesting discussion earlier with Bill Kristol and Barney Frank, who both seemed to agree that both sides might be overselling the case. And nobody here could name a single time that the rights of an American were violated, the privacy rights, by this bulk collection. If that's the case, then why not give the intel communities what they say they need?
Okay, good question. I devote an entire chapter of that very question to my book, Our Lost Constitution. And in that book, I explain that, look, I can't point to a single instance where I know that it's been violated. In fact, I'm willing to assume, for purposes of this discussion, that it hasn't been, and that the men and women working at NSA today respect our rights and are interested in doing nothing other than protecting our national security. But we don't know that that will always be the case. And we do know that there is tremendous potential for abuse. In light of that potential for abuse, it would be the smarter thing, I think, to connect up the way the NSA operates with actual needs, with an actual terrorism investigation.
So I'm curious, what abuse has there been so far?
Yeah.
That's my point. There hasn't been abuse of this particular program. We're not aware of any abuse. But it's rife with the potential for abuse. And just as you point out that we can't point to any examples where it has been abused, it's very difficult to point to any specific terrorist act that has been thwarted by this program because of its existence. It's the perfect scenario in which we ought to come up with some kind of compromise, one that can continue to protect the American people, but do so in a way that also safeguards their privacy.
Senator Sam Stein here. I'm wondering, what did you make of your colleague Rand Paul's comments yesterday on the floor that he believes some of his colleagues are actually rooting secretly for a terrorist attack to happen during this intervening period so that they can then come back and blame it upon him?
You know, look, I can't peer into the mind of any of my colleagues. I certainly can't peer into the minds of all of them. I would be surprised if anyone, if any red-blooded American, member of Congress or not, would want an act of terror to succeed on American soil. So that would really surprise me.
Yeah, it would surprise me too.
Richard.
But there is a political risk to going out on a limb for this issue if there is some sort of violence. And I think that's what we've seen in many countries, you know, around the world, that these security measures come into place and then you can't peel them back, because if you peel them back, you're always accused of being soft and opening yourself up to criticism.
Senator Mike Lee, are you soft on terrorism?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And look, this is the important point in here, is that we didn't have to allow this to expire. I don't think we should have allowed it to expire. In fact, I went to great lengths 2 weeks ago before we adjourned for the May recess to make sure that we didn't adjourn and to make sure that we got this done before we recessed. This should have been taken up the week before we went on our Memorial Day recess. We could have passed it in time for it to avoid expiration. There was no reason for this to have to expire at midnight last night.
All right, Senator, it's always great to have you here. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. And
thank you.
Richard Engel.